We're ready.
I got it.
I call to order the Urban Renewal meeting of January 4th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Present.
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Chair Doug Neely,
Here.
and Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Here. So I don't see any citizen comments on issues not related to items on the agenda. So we're clear of that. We had none. Okay. That being said, the first item for discussion tonight, as is our practice, is the election of the chair and the vice chair for 2023. I would simply say that I'm not a candidate for chair this coming year. And I just want to say that being a chair brings with it, it's much like being the mayor versus a commissioner, but not to that extent. You're driving the meeting, you're trying to attain things, but you always understand that you are governed by the ability to get a majority of opinions to go with you. And sometimes I've succeeded in my goals and sometimes I haven't. But I'm a believer in changes in leadership in any organization. I think fresh leadership is a good thing. So having uttered that preamble, who would like to give the staff report on the chair and vice chair? I don't know that we need one. Simply said, any member up here is eligible for either of the two positions. And that's the summary in a nutshell. So that being said, I think what I'd like to do, if you'll entertain me, is hold the election for chair and hold the election for vice chair, and then we'll switch seats and let the new officers take over. I see our notification is on that Ms. McGriff would like to speak.
Well, I thought it was customary that the new chair and vice chair would take over at the next meeting.
Is there a custom that it's 2023, they're the chair as of the election.
To the extent there's a new chair elected, that person should probably take the chair.
Okay, well then I would like to make a motion to nominate Sean Cross as the vice chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's call for the vote.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Doug Neely,
Aye.
Chair Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is there something you'd like to say in between the vote for the chair and vice chair?
Just the nomination.
Okay, please do. We have
I'd
a vote
like-
for nominations for the chair position.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Mike Mitchell for chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sean, Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Doug Neely,
Not vice chair anymore, but aye.
And until the takeover.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Well said. Aye.
Motion passes.
Why don't we take a moment and switch positions?
This is not like moving deck chairs on the Titanic.
You have one here,
Oh, everybody has one of their rotation.
Oh, I picked mine up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, thank my fellow commissioners for your support. Onward and upward. So we are on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is Urban Renewal Agency ballot measure to authorize borrowing of funds to implement urban renewal projects. Staff report, is that Mr. Conkle?
Thank you. Good evening, Urban Renewal Commissioners. So at our last meeting in December, we reviewed the potential caption, question, and summary for the May election to consider the ability for the Urban Renewal Agency to take on debt. In the staff report background, we incorporated a red line version of the changes that were made based on the comments that were received. I did catch one, or actually Vice Chair Cross caught one other typo in the question. It should say, shall urban renewal be authorized rather than shall urban renewal by authorized. That'd be one additional change. We've identified the borrowing up to $44 million to complete the projects identified in the plan. We removed the reference to downtown in downtown Oregon City. We made the amendment to Washington Avenue is now Washington Street. And then I think one of the direction was to try to clarify that it's not just going to be 3 projects, that it's potentially, we have the 3 priorities, but then we had identified those other 4 projects as well, depending on funding that's available as we, if we move forward with those projects, depending on how much money is available to do the projects that are on that list. So we would open it up for any comments, corrections, clarifications.
So are we arriving at the final wording, or will it then go to the city commission for their revisions? Just
I don't know that we
question on
necessarily
procedure.
have to send it to city commission, but city commission has traditionally sent city matters to the voters.
Okay.
It's not explicit in ORS, but the Urban Renewal Agency is its own separate entity. So it probably could send it to the voters. Our intention was to send it to city commission, just like we're sending the amended urban renewal plan needs to be approved by the city commission as well. But Bill, I don't know if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, as the recent Court of Appeals case made clear, the Urban Renewal Agency is a separate entity. It has, the term in the statute is a corporate, separate body, corporate and politic, and so it has, political authority on its own, but there's an inevitable tie. The Urban Renewal Agency doesn't come into existence until the city commission acts, and then there are certain things that have to go back to the city commission, such as a substantial change like you're making to urban renewal plan. And there's no reason, as a matter of comedy, COMITY, not COMEDY, that to accommodate, the Urban Renewal Commission can have the...
Put your mic up a little,
Sure.
not
Sorry.
closer, but just maybe,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there you go.
All right.
Much better.
Yeah, thank you. So historically, the Urban Renewal Agency has sent it on to the City Commission, and that was, I believe, what the Tony was saying would happen with this one as well. It would go to the City Commission.
That was the intent from the beginning.
Okay, thank you. We do have one comment card on this item, so I think we'll,
Question before you get to
Oh,
that?
sure, yes.
Anyway, I didn't turn on my green light.
that's okay.
I looked at this and I saw the same things that Commissioner Cross saw. Under the question, I don't know if it's just semantics, but it says shall urban renewal. It's just awkward to me. And I know we're right at I looked at 175 words. I guess maybe, I've read this and I said, okay, shall the agency be authorized to borrow? Because even if somebody looks at the caption ahead and they look at the question, it's just awkward to me. And I don't know, I can't.
There's almost an inevitable awkwardness with the word limitation, just 20 words, and you're trying to fit a whole bunch of concepts in there. And I get it. Ideally, we'd have more, an extra 2 words that we could put in there, shall the Urban Renewal Agency be authorized to?
Well, I was even going to shorten it to the agency.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one that looked at it and said, okay, what does that mean?
I think either one of them would work. It's really what,
I'm not going to fall on my sword for it. When I read it, I was trying to pretend I was reading it, and I wasn't as aware as I am.
yeah, and that's really what you want to do is make it as easy and clear to your average voter as you can, while still conveying all the different things that are happening.
Commissioner Neely.
Couple things. One, you probably won't be able to deal with, but I would suggest rather than saying the cove, call Clackamas Cove, which is the official name of it.
Yeah, I was,
The other one requires, what's the name of the order of the max, but I want to express a concern about the wording.
Your mic needs to be closer to you.
And that concern is this.
Could you check your mic?
on.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I think, sorry about that. And that is investments in the county courthouse. A lot of people may not be aware that the county is planning to build a new courthouse next year. And were it not for the word limit, I would suggest redevelopment of the county courthouse sites, indicating that that area is going to be redeveloped. We're not going to be, I presume we're not going to invest in that as a courthouse anymore, but you're at the max, and if there's any place that a word can be thrown out, I think that would be more appropriate and avoid the confusion that people would have. Why are you investing in the courthouse?
I was going to make a comment exactly on that matter. I think that we should have it specified as Clackamas Cove, and I would propose we make up that word by courthouse is one word, so if we put those two words as they are presented right now, they're court and house.
Yeah.
So if we put those together, I would propose getting the saved word for Clackamas for Cove, but I also agree on what Commissioner Neely brought up about courthouse site or something like that, and I did not come with a solution to that one.
Well, we could take out, if there's consensus, development mitigation projects at Clackamas Cove. So the comes out and Clackamas takes its place.
Right, that was going to be my suggestion.
And then investments in the courthouse, one word, site. I think we pick up two words then by taking out county and combining courthouse.
My only concern about the word site, and I understand where Commissioner Neely's coming from, but to me, that implies that it's vacant. And I don't think we want to imply or infer that. I mean, when somebody says, oh, the such and such site, I can see that both ways. So, like I said, it's just,
It could also imply the new site to people.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
So I'm okay with it if it
Complicated.
stays.
Well, that's why I suggested redevelopment. But
Yeah.
I like redevelopment rather than investment. Improvement and redevelopment
Yeah,
in the,
improvements and redevelopment of the,
right. Anything else from
actually, you
the,
could take out the word improvements and put redevelopment, which to me kind of covers all of those. Redevelopment would mean, to me, it means investment, and that, maybe we could save a word there.
anything else from the commissioners? Commissioner O'Donnell?
I would agree with Commissioner McGriff. Redevelopment infers all those practices.
We just saved
the only problem.
Mr. Conkle, I assume you're getting all these?
3 words saying, woo, okay.
Yeah, I'm supposed to hit this right there. Go there, I did it.
Commissioner Neely?
It went right out of my head. We're not, maybe the wording is, maybe I don't have the wording right. We're not redeveloping the silent zone. We're creating it. We're not redeveloping it. We don't have a silent zone to redevelop. But I better get this and look at how it's stated.
Doug, I
I missed
apologize,
that.
I'm completely lost on what you just said.
I got to see what the wording is.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Where does it say courthouse?
It all loops together.
Yeah.
The fifth line.
Okay. A downtown railroad quiet zone. We're not really redeveloping that. We're creating it.
Redevelopment includes rehab, reinvestment, all sorts of things. Or we could just say our improvements to the courthouse, because it definitely needs a lot of improvements.
I like redevelopment as the courthouse, but I think what Commissioner Neely's trying to point out is,
It includes-
here's this list of things that we're saying we're going to redevelop.
Right,
And
it's including all
we're
of
not
those.
redeveloping a quiet zone, we're creating a quiet zone.
Right.
So you can wordsmith that one somehow, right? Mr. Conkle?
Thinking.
Put a semicolon in between them, then it's not saying redevelopment of the end of the Oregon Trail or redevelopment of the railroads. It's like this, 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 and this.
Anything else from the commissioners?
Why don't we just drop the just development? I mean, then you're developing a quiet zone from scratch. You're developing the building into something else.
You put the quiet zone at the end and you say redevelopment, then the other things are sort of redevelopment.
I'm just saying development on everything.
Yeah, because you're saying urban rural improvements to the courthouse, redevelopment. We're talking about doing some investments at the trail center, and we're talking about redeveloping the publicly owned property at 12th and Main. All right, play with it, staff.
Okay. So maybe, if I can give one more update about the $44 million number. So that's the max. So I just want to be clear that that's a combination of the ability of funds to borrow as well as cash on hand, and that it might not be that much depending on what the requirements of getting the debt is. There's going to potentially be interest rates plus or minus 2% from where we're at right now by the time we get to this. There's going to be covenants requirements for the indebtedness. We're not proposing to back this with the full faith and credit of the city, which usually gets you a little bit better rate. That's what we did with past bonds that we've done for the water rate as well as the police station. So I just want to be clear that we will get the maximum that we can afford based on what we have. We don't believe it's more than that 44, but it could be less depending on the requirements of procuring that debt are.
So are you suggesting we keep the 44 in there, or we put a different number?
We're comfortable with the 44.
Okay.
Commissioner Neely, did you have something else, or is your light just still on?
Excuse me, no.
Oh, that's okay. Anything else from the commissioners? Go, Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you. This kind of gets back to what Commissioner McGriff brought up at the beginning, but when it says the Oregon City this is into the summary now. The Oregon City Urban Renewal Plan has identified projects that meet the goals and objectives of the plan. Shouldn't it be the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission has identified projects that meet the goals and objectives of the plan?
Yeah, I don't know, are we an agency or are we a commission?
Because it's saying that the plan has identified projects in the plan, which doesn't make sense.
Nope. The plan is the plan.
And we were the ones who,
Yeah.
Put
so it's
together.
agents, it's the,
you know,
yeah, okay.
So are we an agency or are we a commission? Because it's used interchangeably.
You're a commission that runs the agency.
Okay.
And I think the way the measure is drafted is not focused on either the agency or the commission as much as what does the plan say? And the Oregon City Urban Renewal Plan identified projects. They'll meet the goals and objectives of the plan. So you've got a plan, identifies projects, will meet the goals and objectives.
Or we can change it to commission.
Yeah.
Well, you could also say the Oregon City Urban Renewal Plan identifies projects that will meet the goals. And that, you saved a word that way.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it.
Commissioner O'Donnell, did you have something?
It was just a question for clarity. I recognize we're different entities, the Urban Renewal Commission and the city. What was the thought process or the logic in not using the full faith and credit of the city, knowing that our bond rating is so strong, we would probably get a better rate? And that's just for public information.
I think for simplicity's sake of that they're two separate entities, so having one organization, the Urban Renewal Agency, relying on the full faith and credit of the city commission to back up their debt seemed very complicated, as well as, we've made this position of separating how these two organizations operate. I think the second point is that in the ballot measure, it talks about how we're going to utilize existing urban renewal increment to pay for the debt. And it includes the statement that this measure will not result in additional property taxes. And so as city commissioners are aware, we still have the ability to raise taxes. We have not reached our maximum allowance for taxes. So let's just say something happened in urban renewal and we needed additional funds and we raised taxes. I worry about the messaging of there may be a time when the city needs to raise taxes for a legitimate reason, whether that's parks, police, operations. But if someone could point back to this ballot measure that says, in urban renewal, had an issue, and let's say the city commission decided to step in and help, and at some point we raised taxes, it just seemed to complicate the issue, and the intent is to work within the funds that we have available to us in the district to operate.
Well, as I said, the question was informational, and if the core monies were initially created through TIF, through urban renewal, that what you said just makes sense to me.
Anything else from the commissioners? I've got a couple of things. I'm going to assume that we're not allowed to do boldface or underline or anything. A way that we could emphasize this measure will not result in additional property taxes.
I don't know as if I've seen a measure that actually has bolding or italicization, and I would be, we could explore it with the clerk, but it just, typically that isn't something that I would expect to, it just feels off to me. I can't point to a legal principle, but
I think part of the premise is that this needs to be as unbiased as possible.
Okay, understood. Okay, Mr. Morrow?
Thank you. On that point, because I was wondering about how we can make that as clear as possible. I think that with the last urban renewal vote, there were a lot of people who were under the impression when they were voting that it involved the increasing of their property taxes or something. Could we move it up?
yeah.
Certainly.
Even maybe the first sentence.
Well, I was going to, Commissioner Mitchell, I was going to strongly suggest that we write something that would go, as the commission, write something that would go into the voters pamphlet. We have not done that in the past since I've been on the commission, and I think it would behoove us to do that as either the commission or the agency, whichever we can do legally, put something together that would be in there that would further explain that, but maybe simply. But like you said, if there's a way to get it in there, maybe that would be, I just think we're kind of at our word limit there.
So we have a draft explanatory statement, but we were trying to get through this component that we would bring back. Once again, trying to fit it within not advocating yes or no, trying to be factual
Right.
in the explanatory statement. So we will be bringing that back to look at. Outside of that, in terms of, as you're well aware, once this is approved, staff can only provide unbiased information and post. Anything additional would need to be done on a personal basis.
Right, that's what I was suggesting, not that we could sign on to something that's in the part where you have to pay to put it in the voters pamphlet. That's what I was talking about. I don't know what Catherine was here, she'd be able to tell me what that statement is called, so.
So would the commission like to take the last paragraph that starts, "This measure would authorize the urban agency," and make that the first paragraph of the summary?
Sure.
So that it pulls "This measure will not result in property taxes, increase in property taxes," to the
Can you
top,
put that first?
if you'd like how that reads.
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm just suggesting the single sentence, "This measure will not result in additional property taxes," as the first sentence. But I'm just trying to think of ways that,
That's what I was saying, take this sentence and put it
Right.
first.
I like
What you're
Tony's
suggesting.
idea of taking that whole paragraph and moving it up,
first,
Just
but
Oh, you-
period, yeah.
move that one.
Oh, you mean move it up the first sentence of
Of
the
the
summary?
summary,
Of the summary.
yes.
Okay, now I'm with you. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Or the other suggestion, the suggestion that Mr. Kunkel made was move that whole final paragraph and make it the first paragraph on the
Right.
summary.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Preferences?
I would
Either
support
is
that.
fine with me.
I would support that.
Either one is fine with me, knowing that how much of any measure do voters read? I think that's a key statement to get right out front.
Yeah.
Right. I think I kind of like moving just that one sentence, because the last paragraph kind of gets into the weeds, but doesn't really talk about the overall goals and objectives. So
Yeah.
my suggestion would be the one sentence.
So you're saying put that sentence first and then start with the rest of the urban renewal agent's plan as identified, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
Okay.
Yes.
right.
I would agree with the chair. I mean, keep it clean, keep it clear. This is the point you want to make. Don't dilute it with a bunch of other. Bang, done.
Okay, I've got one more suggestion, and I'd like to hear what my fellow commissioners think. When it says increase tourism and recreation opportunities, I'm wondering if job creation and environmental cleanup might trip more people's triggers to support rather than tourism and recreation opportunities.
No, that's part of
And I'd just like to know what the other commissioners think.
that's part of what we're supposed to be doing, is job creation is part of the role of the Urban Renewal Commission.
We know with a lot of these sites that environmental cleanup's going to be a lot of it too.
Exactly. I think the recent letters to the editor and the Oregon City News both emphasized cleanup.
I'm seeing head nods. Okay.
I'm on board for job creation. That's a key point to the population.
Agreed.
So we're good with job creation and environmental cleanup?
Instead of,
Instead of tourism and recreation opportunities?
even
So-
though that will
Smith,
be
you okay
part
with
of
that?
it.
So if I can just real quick, so the improve livability, increase tourism and recreation opportunities, and provide for infrastructure investment were the 4 goals identified in the urban renewal plan.
yeah.
That
So
was.
what I'm wondering is if yes, we can certainly change this however you would like to change it. I could also add that into the explanatory statement where I have a little more word wiggle room. Or if you'd like it in the summary, we can start to, we can take another editing effort at the summary to make sure we can hit the 175 word count.
Explanatory statement.
The goals and policies that you're focused on, Commissioner, or Chair Mitchell, are taken directly from the urban renewal plan.
Okay. And it does say these are this is from the plan, so, okay. Commissioner Smith?
I guess I don't have a problem with the additions. I have a problem with taking tourism out. mainly because in my perspective, everything that we do in that district is tied to tourism. And I think tourism is the issue that Oregon City has to be prepared to fix, because the way that the city is laid out right now, the infrastructure, the services, the ability for us to offer any sort of regional tourism is all banked on what happens in this district. Because it's not going to happen in our neighborhoods. It's not going to happen anywhere else. It's going to happen right in that district. And if we take that word out, it rethinks that entire district to jobs, which I've said before. This is not about building necessarily a shopping center. It's not necessarily about building apartments. It's about building a mixed-use area that is conducive and supports the tourism infrastructure of the city. And it might include some of those other components, but if it doesn't deal with the tourism component, we've lost all the vision of what that area should be.
Good point.
So
It is in the plan.
But I think tourism and recreation can be, and people from the recreation community will say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. I think recreation falls under tourism. So I think
I agree
taking
with you.
recreation out, tourism still encompasses that. So I think if there's a way we can, so
Could we say-
I would not support removing the word tourism, but.
How about
other
increased
ones we can-
tourism and job opportunities?
Something like that.
So,
Take the recreation word out if we want to get it
and
done.
and point out,
Is that me?
if you, the language
Oh, that is me.
says, the Oregon City Urban Plan has identified projects that will meet the goals and objectives of the plan to improve livability, increase tourism, recreation opportunities, and provide infrastructure investment. And if you look at section 500 of the Urban Renewal Plan, it gives four goals and objectives. One is, A is livability, B is tourism, C is recreation, and D is infrastructure investments. So those four things map directly onto the goals and policies you've already identified in your plan. So if we want to get job creation in there, we'd kind of have to restructure this and not tie it to the goals and objectives of the plan. And we can do that, but it would require changing things.
Okay, so it sounds like in order to match up with the plan, we need to leave it
Leave it, yeah.
as is. Commissioner Neely, did you have something?
I turned it off.
Okay. Is there anything else from the commissioners at this point before we hear the public comment?
Nope.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
I guess I'll say that from the voters' perspective, job creation is something they can see and feel and touch, whereas tourism and whatever the other is. Recreation, they may be the avenues through which job creation occurs. And I think it's a more palatable presentation to the voters with the words job creation in there. I understand what the goals stated were and how this meets, it's a match, but in terms of success, I mean, I remember Commissioner Neely back when he was interested in creation of jobs, and I think that's what the public's interested in. The avenue by which it's created are these other avenues, whether they be tourism or recreation. That's all I'll say. I think it has power to have job creation in there.
Do you see an issue with us being able to add that if we're already mentioning the other four goals?
I would, go ahead. Yeah, I would suggest, projects that will meet the goals and objectives of the plan to do these things. Provide for infrastructure investment on blighted properties in Oregon City, resulting in additional job creation, or, again, we're going to have to play with things given the wording, but the pointing to the result is to create jobs, or you would rather see the job creation in with those four goals and objectives?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think we have to give the voters, thank you. We have to give the voters, we have to recognize our voters are pretty smart. And I think that we have to give them credit for the understanding that tourism and recreation does provide jobs.
Yes.
And so we have to sort of, treat them like they already know, because I think they already know.
Yeah.
We can argue the point all night. I just know that there's certain segments of the population that really aren't interested in tourism, but every segment of the population is interested in job creation. So, vote getter or not, do what we will. That's just my comment on the presentation.
Mike?
Commissioner Neely.
Yeah, I think it's important that this reflects the aspirations of every one of our members on this commission. And I think job creation should be there, tourism should be there. I mean, we all have different, I think, reasons that we wanted to get on this commission and get involved in the Urban Renewal Agency. And I think it's important that it recognizes the aspirations of each of us. And job creation, I think, should be in there too.
So it sounds like we want to add job creation.
Okay.
I think that's the consensus.
Or job opportunity.
Commissioner Smith.
I'll just add one little additional comment. If you remember the last project that took place, or the last project that was pitched for that site, it was all about jobs. And that was a key word to put just to get votes. And it feels like that's what we're saying here. We're going to put that in because we know people will say, oh, job creation, and that's going to, but that takes us back to the same argument that was pushed forward in the last project that didn't go so well. And I think by adding some of those key words that were used in arguments from the last development, you will get the opponents to come out of the woodwork again to defeat this. I was on the fence. I was probably going to abstain to this because I still don't think we've done enough dialogue with the public to put something on the ballot, but I also get that we need to put something on the ballot for the voters to decide. So I have no reservations in, doing that, but I can abstain and let that happen and let the voters decide what happens after that, because that's who should really decide here. But I want us to realize that every time we take a move in urban renewal, it's followed by some sort of response or lawsuit. And every word choice we do is going to cause those things to happen or not happen. I think most of us are hoping someday we can get something built down there, but we're a long way from it. And even if this does pass, I think we're going to see that same argument again. So I think how we word this is very, important.
Commissioner Neely.
It wasn't clear to me what you say would create an abstention on the vote.
Why would I abstain to this vote?
I mean, what in the wording would cause you to abstain instead of say aye?
This whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we've done enough, and from day one, when the voters said stop urban renewal, we have not done enough in this commission or past commissions to have that conversation about how to move forward. I get that there is one way to do it, which is to just throw this out there and have it turned down again and then figure out what we do next. I think we should have all along had a longer conversation with the public about how to really address the issues that were needed before we threw this back out to vote. We haven't done that. We didn't do it in this commission, we didn't do it in the last commission. And so I do feel it's in the voters' hands, this will do that. I'm not going to stop it from going forward because I think it should go forward, but I think it will be voted down.
Okay, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me we still have a consensus to get job creation in here. I'm seeing nods and, no?
That's it?
My vote may change to a no with that added, but we'll see.
I am okay with leaving it the way it was, even though I support the job creation. I think Commissioner Smith has some good points, and I would like to see him vote for this rather than abstaining, because abstaining really doesn't really do anything.
No, abstaining
I think increasing tourism and recreation opportunities, I strongly believe that those create jobs. I think that, some of the things that other people have talked about, shopping centers, in my mind, don't really create jobs. They create a lot of minimum wage jobs, and even with minimum wage being $15 an hour, that is not a family wage job. And when I talk about jobs, I'm talking about family wage jobs, where somebody can afford to buy a number or a house or other things, and you can't do that on retail jobs. Retail jobs are important. I don't discount them. We've got a number of small businesses that are retail related, and they are driving our downtown in terms of bringing people in, and the restaurants. But we're talking about, jobs that, for the people that, we can get them to stay in Oregon City, because there will be family wage jobs. So I'm okay with leaving it the way it is, and we can put something further in the explanatory language about job creation, which all of these things will do that, but I don't think we need to put it in the title.
But
Commissioner
I
Cross.
guess I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, that's okay. If you have something.
I've just been playing with the wording as you guys have been providing the input. I think there's a way that the tourism and recreation can stay. We can add the job creation, can make some of those, we're really close on the word count. So I think we can probably massage this to get to everything that's been kind of discussed so far.
Commissioner Cross?
No, I just like the way that it originally kind of ties to the plan. We just spent 2.5, I've been here for 3 years now, and we spent 3 years talking about a plan. It'd be nice that what we send out matches that, but as long as it's in there, the job creation doesn't really matter to me much. I just don't want to take the stuff that matches the plan out after 3 years.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Obviously, the word count is the enemy of the message. So, would I love to see job creation through tourism and recreation? Sure. But you know what I also say, and I've seen this many times, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. So let's do something, whatever form we put it out in.
So I know this isn't the ideal way, and we'll bring back a clean version, but if I can just read to you what I've heard so far in terms of changes. So summary, this measure will not result in additional property taxes. The Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission has identified projects that meet the goals and objectives of the plan to improve livability, increase tourism and recreational opportunities, provide for infrastructure investment on blighted properties, and creates jobs in Oregon City. The Urban Renewal Commission has identified 3 priority projects: the Rossman Landfill cleanup and redevelopment, development and mitigation projects at Clackamet Cove, and redevelopment of the Stimson property on Washington Street. The remaining projects identified in the Urban Renewal Plan are redevelopment of the county courthouse, improvements at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, creation of a downtown railroad quiet zone, and new development on the publicly owned 12th and Main Street property. This measure would authorize the agency to borrow up to $44 million to complete as many of the projects identified in the plan as funding allows. The urban agency expects to repay the borrowed money over 20 years with existing tax increment revenues currently being collected by the urban renewal district. That is 175 words.
Any thoughts or comments on that?
I'm just going to pose
On what you just,
the question I'm going to pose, my hope is that everybody votes yes, and if there's anything in that statement that would preclude that from happening, I would like to know what it was.
commissioners? Commissioner Smith?
Well, with that, are we going to vote, are we voting right now?
No, we have a public
Is it
comment.
coming back? Okay. So I guess, Commissioner McGriff basically was conveying the same as you are, Commissioner Neely, that what would change my vote from an abstention or whatever. I was really, I'm on the fence of abstaining on this completely, regardless of the wording. And the reason for that is what I said before. I do not think we have had the dialogue that we should have had with the public after the vote to address the issues that are causing the opponents to come after this in multiple lawsuits and will continue to unless we fix it. Putting this to the vote does answer a large question, and I do think we should put it to a vote. But that means, and me abstaining does not stop that. Me abstaining puts that out there for the voters to say, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't, which is what they should have the right to do after they told us no. I think we have just been very careful about how to work the system and get through these last couple years, little at a time, kind of appeasing people and not really having a real discussion about how to fix the problem, and now we're here. And I think there's still a lot of resentment. I think there's still a lot of people in this town that will fight this no matter what because we did do that. And so me putting a full yes on this it is kind of something I don't feel comfortable with because we are here to answer to the voters. We never did that. You know, so me abstaining doesn't stop this from going forward and having the voters decide finally. And me voting, no would, is not responsible either because the voters should see this. I just don't think we've handled it well prior to this. And so that's where I'm on the fence. And actually my abstention was going to change to no based on the wording because I think that also will infuriate people depending on how we word this. So that's kind of where I'm at. I could also look at it and say, well, yeah, by saying yes, because I will be honest, I think there's no possible way we are ever going to redevelop down there unless we do something. And so to me, partly, I could find myself voting yes and then having this go to the voters, but it's going to go to the voters either way. The voters are the ones that are going to say either they support this or they don't, and then we start again. So that's where I'm at.
I'm going to make a move to accept the reading.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to make a motion to accept it.
Wait, hey, we have a citizen comment first.
Oh, that's right.
If you could hold that meeting. Mr. William Gifford?
Discussion. Time for change.
Timer's on.
Thank you. Chair and commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. There were a whole lot of things that I wanted to address. Many of them did get addressed through your wisdom, and I appreciate that, including typos and other things. I have a couple of things left to address. One is the jobs, although important, were not part of the plan. And I think for the clarity of this mapping directly back to the plan, I think you're better ahead to leave the jobs out of this measure and put it in the explanatory statement. I just think that's another option that lets you get to do both things. Thank you, Commissioner Morrow, for moving that tax issue to the top of the list. That was another thing that I was going to propose. It's a really important thing. Unfortunately, I don't think we can bold or asterisks or flaming arrows saying, hey, this is not coming out of your pocket. So a couple things remain. I think that you all know that I'm not real keen on the whole idea of having to ask the voters for this, mostly because this is a program that the Urban Renewal Commission has full authority to do without a vote of the people. That's just a fact. What does seem to be prudent, and the tack that you have taken, is to ask for approval of the citizens to go ahead and take out these loans. It's not a question of asking for authorization. The commission is authorized to do this already. The citizens cannot not authorize it. What they can do is approve it or not. And one suggestion that I would make is replace the word with approval with authorization. And please consider that. It doesn't change the word count at all, but to me it makes a huge difference because it's asking them to buy in to an idea that you are already authorized to do. And I'm thinking, of course, of Wilsonville that has 5 urban renewal commissions. They put them all out to vote, not for the approval of the citizens, but for their authorization. I mean, not for the authorization, but for the approval of the citizens in doing that. The other thing that I want to bring up is a reminder that after this gets on the ballot, staff cannot advocate. And I really, truly expect that all of the commissioners will advocate for this passage. If you're not going to work together as a team and not 100% approve and endorse this, then I think it sends a mixed message to the community. I think you really need to be out there taking something out in the voters' pamphlet, either as individuals. I don't think the commission can do it as a commission, but there must be some way of writing letters to the editor, of getting on OC Chit Chat and Facebook and all that other stuff. But I think this commission really needs to be supporting this measure, not just putting it out there and, well, let's see what they do. Because I think it's up to you to get something done, and that's what I'm hoping for. I had a lot of other things that I'm not going to take up time to talk about, but those are the 2 big ones that I think is a question of approval, not authorization. And I am looking forward to this commission's advocacy for this measure.
Thank you. Mr. Kvaisman, is that a legal question, whether authorize or approval is right? Because I think he brings up a good point.
Yeah, it is, and, historically, the language authorized is what the urban renewal bonds and city bonds in the past have done, and that's largely because of charter language that requires voter approval of bonds. Right now, Section 59A through D is hasn't been invalidated in the same way Section 59E has been. And however, the language that was used to invalidate 59E sure seems like it would invalidate 59A and D also. So, the charter as it currently stands requires voter authorization. However, it's likely that, approval is the more likely what is happening. So, I'm a little torn as to whether approval or authorization would be the better choice of words here, if that makes any sense.
Is that something you need to investigate further? And do we have time for that?
I mean, the way to resolve would probably be go to court and get a what's known as a validation suit, where we say, court, is it correct that 59A through D is gone? Or, do we need voter authorization? We probably don't have time for that. But in terms of the language, my thinking is either one of them could be appropriate, and it's really which would you prefer to have on there?
So Section 59 does reference approval by the voters.
Okay.
Historically, we've used authorize in our previous requests to voters. So
I'm not sure which of you two gentlemen was first. Commissioner Neely?
Well, I was just going to quip here that this reminds me of the old days of Ed Solomon saying on the one hand and on the other hand, and I wish we get a direct answer from our attorneys, that's all.
I was trained by Mr. Sullivan, so.
Commissioner Smith?
I hope people understand my struggle with this, but I do appreciate Mr. Gifford's comments. And I just wish we would have done this better. And I don't just mean this commission, I mean the last commission. Because yes, we can do whatever we want. We as a body can go forward and bulldoze through and do whatever we want. Doesn't mean we should. And unfortunately, the last commission felt like, well, yeah, we can do whatever we want, and we don't need to have the voters' opinion. We've come a long way. And I do see that this does allow the voters to have that say. I also understand that if this town is going to be what I want it to be in terms of tourism, in terms of job creation, in terms of economic development, that we have to deal with that district and we have to do something there. We can't fix these problems without it. I just wish we would understand that fighting back and forth is not going to get us anywhere, because I think we're going to put this out there, and even if I do vote yes, which I'm leaning towards now, because I think this is the only venue that we have to move forward. I guess what I want us to think about then is what happens with the next lawsuit and what happens when this gets voted down. Then what do? Because we have to address that, and we haven't yet. And that's the problem I have. We should have addressed that long ago. And we've dug in so hard that I think this is going to be a lot harder of a battle than you all think.
Commissioner Neely?
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I don't know if it'd make much difference if we put something to the vote of the people at one point or another. It doesn't preclude lawsuits from coming forward. We've had commissions. No. We've had commissions that have voted 3-2, and I'm talking about city commission. This is the time that the Urban Renewal Commission was actually the city commission as well. We didn't have citizen members, and we've had members of the commission voting 2-3, voting for the closure of the districts, and that goes back to some 20 years now. So it doesn't prevent lawsuits no matter what.
No, that's not what I was implying at all. We're going to get sued either way.
Commissioner Neely, did you want to put your motion back on the floor?
Yeah,
Sorry, one moment.
Yeah.
Commissioner McGriff.
Sorry, I had my official green light on here, so I'm going to turn it off so I don't blow out my retinas. What I want to say is that I would agree with you, Commissioner Smith, that the commission prior to former Lyle Smith's tenure was of that mind. I have not been shy about making my views known about why I support urban renewal. I believe that it is a valid tool. I appreciate the comments that Mr. Gifford made, because I think it is about that word. And I think if we can go with approval, that's fine, but if we keep it the other way, it's okay. It is the only tool that we have available as a community to move the projects forward that we want to see, that we have been working on. And one of my goals when I was the chair was that we started the process of amending the plan. That was, to me, was part of the problem, was the plan was outdated. It did not reflect the priorities that we wanted, and it was a laundry list of everything. And I think we have done yeoman's work with the help of staff to hone this down to say, these are the things that we have heard our community say are important. You and I tend to agree about some redevelopment aspects of certain properties, but I think that we need to have the opportunity to help facilitate whatever that is going to be. And to me, that is critical. You and I have both been here a while, and we had prior commissions that I was staff for that were afraid to utilize urban renewal. They didn't really understand it, and they didn't really know how to use it as much as they could. I think we have a different group of people here who have a better understanding. We're not experts, but I think our mutual goal for moving those properties forward so that they can be contributing to this community instead of just being in a stasis position, which is kind of what they are now. And although, I've publicly stated that, I wish that we had been able to implement the end of the Oregon Trail Master Plan, because that was part of my dream when I came here, and I thought, wow, what a great thing. And I've talked to former Mayor Norris about that many times. But we're in a little bit different time, and maybe there is some way that some of that can still be achieved. I'm not ruling that out. But I think the key point that I want to thank you for, William, is that we need to move forward as a group and continue the amazing teamwork that we have had in the past since former Mayor Lyle Smith was our fearless leader. And I think we have the ability to do that. And I am confident that we can have conversations, continue to have conversations. I will tell you, I talk to people a lot about urban renewal, which I know sounds odd, but it's that aisle 13 conversations that I have with people. So I'm going to defer back to Commissioner Neely because he's ready to make a motion. And thank you.
I move to accept the wording that our city manager has put forward for the ballot measure.
There a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call for the vote.
Do we still have an option are we making a decision about the word authorized or allowed?
Approve or authorize? Approve or authorize?
Oh, I like the word approve, too.
So,
We're going to have to,
Could we read it
yeah.
one more?
I mean, as it's written and as the motion has been made, it's with the word authorizes. But as the manager pointed out, the language in the charter that we're looking at says, you can't issue a bond unless it's approved by the voters. So it may be better to
I would like to
follow
make
the
a friendly
language
amendment then if
of
you
the
would accept
charter.
that.
Yes, I
change
accept
that
the
to-
amendment.
And that shows up in the caption, it shows up in the question, and it shows up in the summary.
So that's a friendly motion and with the change of approved instead of authorized.
And so you
Okay, everybody clear
you
on that?
accept the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the final wording with the tourism and that piece? Was it, could you just read it really quick one more time?
so I'm going to start. The Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission has identified projects that meet the goals and objectives of the plan to improve livability, increase tourism and recreation opportunities, provide for infrastructure investment on blighted properties, and creates jobs in Oregon City.
Got it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Go ahead with the vote.
Commissioner Denise McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Let's let the people speak. Aye.
Vice Chair Sean Cross,
Yes.
Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Before we go on to the next item, I'm going to make a suggestion, if I may. Commissioner McGriff had suggested a letter of support in the measure from the commission. I would suggest that the individual commissioners write their own letters of support. I think there's different emphasis that we have in terms of the import. And number one, believe it or not, some people are impressed by the numbers in favor, listing of how many are in favor and how many oppose, and you're better off with 7 letters of support than just one.
Good point.
And if you want to use your title at the end, that's fine.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Good point, good point. Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, draft minutes of December 17th, 2022 URC meeting. Is there a motion?
I would move that we approve those minutes as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded?
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sean Cross.
Yes.
Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Any communications?
No, sir.
All right, we will adjourn, and next meeting will begin what time? 7:15? We'll be a little undetermined on the next meeting starting, but we are adjourned.
I'll start sometime.